So, Farron, obviously, a lot of stuff happening this week. Let's start with the Dakota Access Pipeline. This is a big victory for a lot of people who really physically had themselves on the line. Many Native Americans from tribes across the country came out to provide support, as well as activists who really physically endangered themselves to bring about this result. And finally, the Obama administration, in the guise of the military Army Corps of Engineers, put a halt, or at least called for a halt of the building of this pipeline, called for an extended, more appropriate environmental impact study, which theoretically should, at the very least, slow this down for a couple of years, maybe kill it. But to a certain extent, they're still building it. But nevertheless, a victory.
Yeah, absolutely. And you always have to give credit where credit's due. And it is the Native Americans that banded together on this, the activists, everybody who was out there day and night for months. I mean, this was a huge fight. And so it is a massive victory, especially when you look back at just how bad this year has been. Kind of going out on a high note here. And it just shows the kind of activism, the kind of dedication, the kind of organization that's going to be needed as we head into 4 years of Donald Trump, because social media on this issue played a huge role, because the mainstream media, for the most part, obviously, not covering it as much as they should have. So it was the social media activists who got out there, with everybody checking in on Facebook at Standing Rock. They brought this issue into national dialogue, and that played a massive role. But you have to give massive credit to everybody who went out there, who stood out there, who had the dogs on them, the freezing hoses in the freezing weather. Yeah. The rubber bullets. I mean, it was despicable what they did to these activists, but such a great result. And it just shows this is what we have to do. This is what's necessary, not only for projects like this, but like I said, as we head into 4 years of Donald Trump, this is a positive sign. People are active, they're energized, and we have to keep that momentum going forward to fight back for 4 years.
And people should be aware that it's going to be significantly harder than this. Yeah. It is the reality is, when you have a protest against like this, and there is a Democrat in the White House, the constituency that hears about this protest, the constituency that gets alerted to this, is going to be one that is more aligned with the Democratic Party than the Republicans, right? I mean, it was not Pajamas Media that was out there covering this on a consistent basis. It was Democracy Now! And TYT. It was not Breitbart that was reporting on this. It was a Ring of Fire website that was having stories written about it. And so with Donald Trump, he and his Republican Party is simply just not as interested in listening to those people. They don't have to. So people are going to find that these protests are going to be harder. There's going to be as vicious as these police officers were out at Standing Rock. They're going to be just as vicious, if not more so, going forward. And what better example of the hostility that the Trump regime has to environmental questions, whether it's global warming or fracking or pipelines, than the announcement this week that Trump had selected Scott Pruitt, the Oklahoma Attorney General. I mean, I don't know if I could call him a literal partner of the fracking industry, but this guy is totally in their pocket. He is been right on the forefront of the fights against the EPA's regulations that have come during the Obama administration to deal with things like climate change. I mean, this is this is close to about as worst case scenario as you're going to get, because he's not only hostile towards the environment, but he also knows how to work the legal system to basically defang the EPA.
Well, and that's what he's been doing for many years there. And, you mentioned fracking in Oklahoma, and I think it's worth pointing out, too, that in Oklahoma, they have seen more than a tenfold increase in the amount and the intensity of earthquakes in the state that has been linked back to fracking in all of these studies. But to a guy like Pruitt, that doesn't matter. To somebody like Donald Trump, that doesn't matter. We have to get all the oil. We have to get all the gas. We have to build all the pipelines. We have to get all the offshore rigs in motion. And that is exactly what Donald Trump laid out as his energy policy this past summer. There was a conference call with the reporters where they laid this out. I happen to be in on that. And that is 100% what he wants to do. He wants to take $10 billion away from the budget for renewable energy projects over the next 8 years and funnel that all back into fossil fuel production on United States soil, because the Republicans keep telling us we've got to be energy independent, ignoring the fact that we had to lift the oil export ban because we want to get it to global markets and make money. It's not about creating energy in the United States. It's about shipping it overseas and making more money on the overseas markets. That's what these pipelines are about. That's what the increase in fracking and drilling is all about. It's about money, not energy independence. Renewable would give us energy independence, but we're just too backwards to go full force on that front.
Well, it's not just a question of too backwards. I mean, it's really a corruption of our democratic process. I mean, Harold Hamm, who is the CEO of Continental Energy, which is a North Dakota oil and gas fracking outfit, which also works in Oklahoma, was the co-chair of Pruitt's 2013 reelect campaign. So, I mean, the relationships here are one-to-one. We also know that the Trump administration is already meeting with advisors trying to figure out how to privatize Native American land, reservation land, in the hands of Native Americans that they find who are willing to open up this land to extensive oil and gas exploration. I mean, this is what we are headed into. So when you have someone like this who's so hostile to the environment, this is what we can expect. A climate change denier sitting on the transition team. So this is what the next 4 years, hopefully just 4, are going to look like